meeting start? 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, everybody, getting us started. So I don't forget, before we start, a special shout out to Nicole and Jared. They're watching us from town, can't be here. Also, Paul in Laughlin, Nevada, who's tying into us tonight. And Walker, you and the folks up there at the Alano Club in Edmonton, Alberta, you're in our thoughts. Also, Chris O in Lubbock. You need to quit breaking your leg, brother. You're not going to be able to earn any money that way. We're going to lift you up in prayer anyway. We open every session of Position and Neutrality with a prayer, and tonight Jim's here to do that for us.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this place where we can come together as a group, support one another. And Lord, we just pray that you would speak through our friend Joe tonight. And Lord, I understand the lesson is about making amends. And in your word, you say that blessed are those who are peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. Lord, thank you for the ability to be forgiven and to ask for forgiveness for others. Be with Joe now as he teaches us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
All right. So, as Jim has shared with you, we're going to take a look at steps 8 and 9. Those of you that haven't joined us before, what we do is we take a look at the suggested instructions for a step or so a week directly out of this book. And we use this book in 12-step recovery. Why?
Because it works.
Yeah, the process described by the authors of this book's been proven to work for addicts of the hopeless variety, addicts to alcohol and other substances. And in fact, it's been shown and proven to work on a variety of other behavioral disorders. So for any of us within the sound of my voice, just understand if you have some kind of emotional, mental, or physical disorder, we have a solution that's available to you in a personal way, to you, through you. And what we're going to do is introduce you to that power tonight and talk to you a little bit about the witness of the first 100 that formed the group of Alcoholics Anonymous, so that you understand their witness being delivered from alcoholism. Fair enough? Yeah. So tonight we're in steps 8 and 9. As I said, a lot of people never take the second step or the third step because they're looking down the road at 9. And what I would suggest is, do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then 8 doesn't look like nearly as big a reach. And you'll understand by the time you get there the incentive for the making of direct amends. Does it make sense? All right. So we're going to look at page 76 of our book. The last thing we did last week was say that prayer. Maybe we could say that prayer and then launch for you. So it's my Creator, I'm now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. Now, this is the first time when we say a prayer in here that we've said amen, because this is the first time I need agreement. I've been introduced to my purpose, and immediately behind my purpose, I've been introduced to my power. But now my eyes are open. I know what the cost of the journey is. It's out in front of me. It's all these amends that I'm getting ready to go make. Yes? And so I'm going to need power greater than me, because much of it is scary. Yeah? All right, so then it says, now we need more action. The minute I ask for power, it's up to me to take a step of faith and start walking in power. So notice how they said, now we need more action. Give it a week or two, a little more thinking about it, and then we'll take some action. They didn't say that, did they? Yeah, now we need more action. And then it says, without which we find that faith without works is dead. So whatever faith I lose consciousness of from time to time, yes? Any of you ever had all kinds of miraculous things done for you and with you, and then all of a sudden something got gnarly again, and you're like, oh, I'll never get out of this. It's the end of the world. Yeah. So the reason is that we've got to be active. Our faith can't just be a verbal response. It's got to be rigorous action, because I prove the power to me through me. And in so doing, people see me walking in faith, and they're then able to witness faith. So it's all part of God's original plan. All right. So we have a list of all persons we've harmed and to whom we are willing to make amends. Who ever had such a list? Yeah. And where did we get it? And I asked that question because they told us in the last chapter, rarely we've seen a person fail who's thoroughly followed our path. So we always like to find ourselves on the path they're talking about to make sure I'm still tracking. Yeah. So we made it when we took inventory. And then it says we subjected ourselves to a drastic self-appraisal. So how many of you have done this and found that drastic? How many of you are looking at it on the wall are thinking, oh, that looks drastic? That's why you do not take your steps off the wall. The old timers told me if you take your steps off the wall, you got an off the wall program. You need to get in order and get a mentor, someone to help you walk it out. Just because that's what we all need. Yeah? All right. So now we go out to our fellows and repair the damage done in the past. So this is not about apologies, even though Seinfeld episodes would have us believe that, right? Any of you old enough to remember Seinfeld? And yeah, okay. So, and other television depictions, but it isn't so much about it. There's nothing wrong with an apology, but if an apology isn't followed or demonstrated through a changed behavior, it means nothing. In fact, it's probably more harmful, right? All right. So then it said, we attempt to sweep away the debris which has accumulated out of our effort to live on self-will and run the show ourselves. If we haven't the will to do this, we ask until it comes. They're re-emphasizing willingness is divine power. For those of your students of that other book, He is my righteousness. Right? So this is old wisdom. We want people to understand I wasn't able to do the things I desperately needed to do and knew I needed to do until I'd encountered this power within me. And then suddenly I was willing to do things I'd never been willing to do. And that wasn't of me, although it flowed through me. Does that make sense? All right. So it says, remember, it was agreed at the beginning we would go to any lengths for victory over alcohol. That's in italics. Who did they make that agreement with? The power found in me, to Sean's point. Yeah, anyone agree with him? I made that agreement deep down inside. Yeah? All right, so then they immediately tell us the human experience. Probably there are still some misgivings.
No shit.
So how many of you facing this list of people you needed to approach and whatever had some misgivings? How many of you made some of your amends, but then you didn't want to take someone else through the steps, actually step into the act of sponsorship? That's the big amends, right? So you need to understand if when this person who has exactly the healing you need asks you to help them, you're going to have to take a step in faith, even though you're scared that you're going to hurt them. To be a little crude, my sponsor says, don't worry about it, Joe. You can't fuck them up any worse than they already are.
True. So true.
Well, in fact, they're holding my healing. That's the truth of it. And without getting glib or anything else, the healing that I can clearly see they need is one I need for myself. But as an instrument, I receive it. All right. So as we look over the list of business acquaintances and friends we have hurt, we may feel diffident about going to some of them on a spiritual basis. What do they mean?
They don't want to talk.
People might be a little uncomfortable talking to them about spiritual matters.
Yeah.
Some of us had some rather nefarious business partners. Yeah. Okay, so it says, let us be reassured. To some people, we need not and probably should not emphasize the spiritual feature on our first approach. We might prejudice them. So they're telling you, you may be experiencing fear for a reason. That may be spiritual breaks. But you're going to have to get a little clarity, because the reason is, if I just lead with my spiritual seeking, I'm not believable. So I may prejudice them, where if they get to witness some change coming over me, they may be curious, they may be open to the approach, and at that time, then there's a chance for an impartation that's meaningful. Make sense? All right, so at the moment, we're trying to put our lives in order, but this is not an end in itself. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. So a lot of us lived a life in addiction that felt like it lacked purpose. A lot of us tried to take ourselves out. A lot of us were trying to take ourselves out on the installment plan. Yeah? And what I really wanted to do was do something meaningful. I wanted to be someone meaningful. And one of the things I found is it doesn't take celebrity to be someone meaningful. What it takes is empathy. Make sense? All right, but you don't learn that until you start just serving for service sake. All right, so it's seldom wise to approach an individual who still smarts from our injustice to him and announce that we've gone religious. Now they're telling exactly the experience we've all had, right? Hey, been out there looking for God. Sure sorry about your stereo. And what's his response? Yeah, while you're out there looking for God, did you happen to find my stereo? Yeah. So in the prize ring, this would be called leading with the chin. Why lay ourselves open to being branded fanatics or religious bores? Question mark. Eyesight without insight, spiritual blindness. Right. Am I not pronouncing the truth because of I'm still afraid of what they'll think of me for sharing it? Or am I doing it for their own good? Right? What am I afraid of? Am I afraid to be thought of something I don't want to be thought of as? Am I trying to protect a persona rather than to help this soul? Because those are real struggles we have. All right, so then it says we may kill a future opportunity to carry a beneficial message. Sometimes you're not going to be able to witness because of our experience with them and them with us, but your walk, your life is your witness. They'll get curious soon enough if they knew you, right? So our man is sure to be impressed with sincere desire to set right the wrong. So we lead with something, show up with something, yes? Yeah. He's going to be more interested in a demonstration of goodwill than in our talk of spiritual discoveries. So we don't use this as an excuse for shying away from the subject of God. When it'll serve any good purpose, we're willing to announce our convictions with tact and common sense. So what are they talking about? What's that look like? Your tactful, common sense approach to your restoration. That's really as good as it gets. There's no prejudicial language there. And sometimes they don't even allow us to talk to them until they've seen some kind of change, and maybe they'll ask about the change. And what's my obligation under the step 3 promise? I'm glad that you noticed I'm living a different life. I'm doing it because of the power I found within me. His love, his power, his way of life. Instead of some list of accomplishments I've made. Right? Because that's not true, and it's not honoring what I agreed to. All right, so when it'll serve any good purpose, we're willing to announce our convictions with tact and common sense. The question of how to approach the man we hated will arise. How many of you have had people you hated? How many of you have had people you didn't like very well, but you didn't like the word hate? Because and a lot of times words trigger people. So hate means strongly dislike. Okay? So it says that maybe he's done us more harm than we've done him, and though we may have acquired a better attitude toward him, we're still not too keen about admitting our faults. So if you've got somebody that you really know you need to make amends to because of the way you responded to them, but they really were worse, Yeah. So that's who they're talking to us about. They may have done you a great harm, but if you're still carrying that harm instead of moving into forgiveness, you're carrying the burden that they should rightfully be carrying. Does it make sense? So nevertheless, with the person we dislike, we take the bit in our teeth. So what do they mean, that metaphor?
Go where you're going to go.
Yeah, the situation needs to be controlled. We don't control people or outcomes, but we can take the first step forward and start the process, yes? If the animal gets the bit in the teeth, you're going where the animal wants to go. So when I got the bit in my teeth, we're going in the direction indicated, yeah? So it's harder to go to an enemy than to a friend. Why do we acknowledge that first? Because it is. It is. And there's a lot of us in male society, that's a sign of weakness, and it's all these other things that go with it, and right? But then it says, but we find it much more beneficial to us. They're talking about on the other side. So the heavier the burden, the greater the relief when I finally get to set it down. So we go to him in a helpful and forgiving spirit. How does one get in a helpful and forgiving spirit? Yeah, that's why they started talking to us about prayer and meditation and how it works. And now they're going to talk more about it here. But they expect me to get centered in the spirit before I go do something difficult. And it says, confessing our former ill feeling and expressing our regret. My former ill feeling, if they know it, I express it. If I'm the only one who knows it, I can keep that little secret to myself and just talk about my ill treatment. And what I mean is I've had people come to make amends to me and say, I thought you were a real jerk. And I didn't know they thought I was a real jerk. So now I need to make amends because I'm not thinking very kindly of them, right? So if I treated you bad, then there's a reason I treated you bad. But my thinking about it isn't. Does that make sense? And some of us just ghost everybody, and we don't even know why we ghosted them. And they think we're mad at them, but we're not mad at them. We just ghosted them. I just knew I was going to be a train wreck. I didn't want you to see it, so catch you on the flip side. But you still got to do the approach. Make sense? Okay, so under no obligation do we criticize such a person or argue. Simply, we tell them that we'll never get over drinking until we've done our utmost to straighten out the past. Don't say it if you don't believe it. Nothing less powerful and probably more harmful to you is the amends that you do not mean, an approach. Right. If you're just checking a list, you're not getting the benefit. This is about subduing my ego and strengthening the spirit in me. I got to do the hard thing. And the only way that's going to happen is a power greater than me presents through me. Yes? The power to be kinder than I feel. Yes? All right, so we're there to sweep off our side of the street, realizing that nothing worthwhile can be accomplished until we do so, never trying to tell him what he should do. His faults are not discussed. We stick to our own. Do you notice how many times they said essentially the same thing? Does that give you an idea of the degree of difficulty they know you're going up against? Yeah, this is a book of experience. So they're telling you, we really had to get prayed up for this. Yes? But if you do that, it says, if our manner is calm, frank, and open, we will be gratified with the result. So how does one present a calm manner? You're going to have to actually, because you probably won't be calm. This is the man I hated. So I'm not going to be experiencing calmness, but my demeanor will not belie what's going on because there's power in a storm. Right? And then frank is what? Direct. Yep. Bumper sticker explanations. If it takes too long, you're going to miss them with the message. And then open. What are they talking about? The likelihood is when I open myself up, I may have missed something that's still troubling them. I've got to be open to hear it without recoiling. Again, all the more reason I need to be fortified in the spirit. Does that make sense? Remember, I drank and used drugs in such a way I didn't always remember our interactions. So it's entirely possible there's some details that just escaped me. It's highly probable in many instances. Okay, so in 9 cases out of 10, the unexpected happens. 9 cases out of 10. Where's my gamblers? So the outcome's probably going to be better than I expected 9 times out of 10. However, there is a 10%. So you might want to get fortified, right? So sometimes the man we're calling upon admits his faults, his own fault, so feuds of years standing melt away in an hour. Then they say, rarely do we fail to make satisfactory progress. So this is the first approach. You probably have to continue to see them for a while to see how it goes, especially with families. Sometimes we've done some deep harms in families. It takes a while. Our former enemies sometimes praise what we're doing and wish us well. Anyone ever had someone you thought was just really awful, and then when they found out you were doing better and you knew what a wreck you were, they really were encouraging to you? Is it surprising? We need to tell more people about those experiences because everyone fears this like it's the end of the world, and this is the beginning of life. When I start walking in an active repentance, I'm finally strengthening the one thing that gives me life. So occasionally they will offer assistance. It should not matter, however, if someone does throw us out of his office, there's the 10%. It could go differently than I'd hoped. We have made our demonstration, done our part, it's water over the dam. So I went and did what I needed to do spiritually. That doesn't mean I'm absolved of the amends if they ever are willing to hear it. It just means I've done what I can do in this moment. Does that make sense? So then it goes to the next thing. It says most alcoholics owe money. And to Sean's point, I would have thought everyone knew that. But did anyone in this room get here without owing money? No. I've met one guy in all the years in recovery, and I still don't think he's telling the truth. And we are prone to hyperbole in recovery. So anyway, we do not dodge our creditors. How many of you early in recovery did a little dodging? And how many of you got desperately uncomfortable because of it? Yeah, so that's why it's not because it's a rule that we don't do it. We don't do it because I want to be free. Not a little free, all the way free. Yeah? All right, so telling them what we're trying to do, we make no bones about our drinking. They usually know it anyway, whether we think so or not. So how many of you discovered that about your addiction or your behaviors? When you finally admitted it, you made it unanimous? Anybody else? It's like, I thought I was pretty tricky, but most people kind of knew, right? In fact, they were a little bit relieved. They thought it was more serious than it was. Oh, I thought something else was really wrong. Nor are we afraid of disclosing our alcoholism on the theory that it may cause financial harm. They're talking about my disclosure to someone I've harmed because of my alcoholism harming me further. That's silly. They're entitled to an explanation that not only did my drinking cause me to be slow to pay, but you didn't deserve it. And I now know I did you wrong. Right? That's not the same as running around telling everybody that you're an alcoholic or a drug addict or whatever you are. You can do it if you want, but there's no obligation in society as a rule to understand what that means. They'll assign any meaning to it they want, and they may not trust you to do the things you want to do with them. There's no reason to do that. So there's 2 schools here. I'm telling you, people that can benefit from my experience, I share it openly. People who have no interest in my experience, there's no reason for me to disclose that to them. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right, so approached in this way, the most ruthless creditor will sometimes surprise us. Arranging the best deal we can, we let these people know we're sorry. So it's okay to tell them, I can't pay you all that I owe you right now. This, in fact, I don't have very much extra, but I do have this much a week or this much a month. Wouldn't hurt to sit down with your mentor and see that indeed you do have that, because there's nothing worse than making a commitment you then don't keep. All right, so our drinking has made us slow to pay. Any of you get slow to pay because you're drinking? We must lose our fear of creditors no matter how far we have to go, for we're liable to drink if we're afraid to face them. So that's their experience. If you keep living in fear long enough, you're going to need a release, right? And the promises that we're going to get to later tonight, they're going to talk about we're free of that fear of that financial insecurity, right? Well, that's not going to happen if I don't confront those people whom I've wronged. Yep. So perhaps we have committed a criminal offense. Interesting in our little group. Perhaps is a useless word. But for those people who have never been convicted of a criminal offense, let's talk to you, because it said committed, not convicted. And many of us have done some things that are petty things that we're afraid are going to cause greater harm if it's disclosed. And what's the harm if I just sweep it under the rug? And the only thing I can say is that may be true, but then you're still not free. There are no secrets in the realm of the spirit. There is nothing your creator doesn't know about you. So you're never going to have the intimacy you desperately want with that power until you tell someone all your life story. Usually him, right? He already knows it anyway. He wants to know if you know it. Anyway, so, which might land us in jail if it were known to the authorities. We may be short in our accounts and unable to make good. How many of you have done that? And you didn't have enough to pay the whole thing, so you just thought, well, you just won't pay any of it. Yep. Any of you ever do that when you're actively running and gunning? Like I come up $10 short on the rent, and since I can't give him $10 light, I got $900 more for drinking. Anyway, so yes, I was evicted more than once. I even broke into one I was evicted from one time. Who knew that was a crime? Anyway, we've already admitted this in confidence to another person, but we're sure we'd be imprisoned or lose our job if it were known. Maybe it's only a petty offense, such as padding the expense account. Many of us have done that sort of thing. Maybe we're divorced and have remarried, but haven't kept up the alimony, number one. She's indignant about it and has a warrant out for our arrest. That's a common form of trouble too. So they went through a bunch of troubles that were common to people in the fellowship at that time. If we have not listed you, they're going to start talking to you now. Although these reparations take innumerable forms, focus on the word innumerable. There's a tendency in early recovery, well, I'm not that. I'm not this. I'm not that. Focus on the similarities, not the differences. All of us have issues because no one gets to recovery on a winning streak. Never. We're not out polishing the rolls and just decide to check out AA. It's not the way it goes down. So, although these reparations take innumerable forms, there are some general principles which we find guiding. So, we're going to move directly to solution by reminding ourselves of the general principles which they've already shown us. Yes? All right, so reminding ourselves that we've decided to go to any lengths to find a spiritual experience. So do you know that about 12-step recovery? Those of you that are new and haven't started participating in the manner of living suggested through the step process, and maybe you've sat in rooms and people say things like, we just don't pick up no matter what, and meeting makers make it. All of those things might be true until they're not. But the one thing that is true is if you are serving and helping others, you have insurance against it. Been proven for years and years. So I didn't agree to get abstinent. I agreed to go to any lengths to awaken in the spirit and then do my best to stay that way, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. Yes? Yeah. So I got to remind myself from time to time, because and I say this because I don't want anyone to get, you'll hear somebody say, well, at least you're sober. Well, that's not the goal. I'll tell you what, I got sober because I ran out many times when I was active. And you want to see a crazy man, see me abstinent when I need more. So I'm not going to live well in abstinence. And if you're anything like me, then that's a byproduct of the delivery I need, right? Okay, so we ask that we be given the strength and direction to do the right thing. Strength and direction to do the right thing. How many of you take the time to pray for that all day as you go along? Truth is, we probably don't. But when we become aware of our fear, we might be getting disciplined that way, yes? Okay, no matter what the personal consequences may be. We may lose our position or reputation or face jail, but we are willing. See how you know that they're talking about divine power within them? Because if you know that you are going to lose your job, which by all likelihood, many of us have assigned our identity to our job, or lose our freedom altogether, but I'm still willing, that's a power greater than me operating through me. Right? All right. Then it says we must not shrink at anything. Usually, however, other people are involved. So now they're going to talk to us about those mysterious others, except when to do so would injure them, you or them or others, right? Okay. So therefore, we're not to be the hasty and foolish martyr who would needlessly sacrifice others to save himself from the alcoholic pit. A man we know had remarried. Because of resentment and drinking, he had not paid alimony to his first wife. She was furious. She went to court and got an order for his arrest. He had commenced our way of life, had secured a position, and was getting his head above water. So do you understand when they say commenced our way of life, they're talking about he's been taken through the step process. He's begun his journey in power. Yes? He had secured a position. He found a job. Probably wasn't the job, but it was a job. Yeah? And he was starting to get made whole again. Yes? And it says it would have been impressive heroics if he'd walked up to the judge and said, "Here I am." It would be kind of heroic to do that, wouldn't it? But if I'm trying to grow in the Spirit, is my goal impressive heroics? See how cunning, baffling, and powerful this thing is? What I think is going to make me look good is not what's going to make me feel better at all. Make sense? And that's why I have a mentor who says, "Hold on there, Baba Louie. I'll do the thinning around here." Wait a minute, we may not need to do that, right? We may not need to do all that. And if we do, we will, and we'll do it in power, but we don't necessarily have to do all that, right? So it says we thought he ought to be willing to do that if necessary, but if he were in jail, he could provide nothing for either family. So what I thought was impressive heroics now denied two people. Does it make sense? So we suggested he write his first wife, admitting his faults and asking forgiveness. He did, and also sent a small amount of money. He told her what he would try and do in the future. He said he was perfectly willing to go to jail if she insisted. So which of those do you think was most impressive for her?
Money.
Yeah, I mean, the demonstration opened her ears so that she could hear what I had to say, right? And a promise that she could monitor, a metric to measure me by, something I would try and do in the future. And I would suggest that my openness to, look, I'll go to jail if that's what you want, is what I can do right now, or I can go to jail. I didn't do this to stay out of that. And faced with that, it says, of course she did not. Let me tell you, if you're faced with that kind of thing, the of course isn't so evident on the other side, right? But I do know from human nature, we all like to be asked. We don't like to be told what we're going to do. We like to be asked if we'll help. And if someone will humble themselves to ask for help, even people that are fairly ruthless sometimes will allow that leniency. It's amazing. And most of us are not that ruthless, truthfully. All right, so of course she did not. The whole situation has long since been adjusted. Before taking drastic action, which might implicate other people, we secure their consent. So those others that might be affected by the outcome of this action I'm about to take, those are the others. except when to do so would injure them, the one I'm approaching, or others. These are the others. Yeah? All right, so if we have obtained permission, here's our guiding principles, have consulted with others, asked God to help, and the drastic step is indicated, we must not shrink. Now, notice how half of the original fellowship were atheists or agnostics in the beginning, yet the step process changed their mind about the existence of this power and where and how to find it. And here's one of the ways where they're talking to you about awakening to the Spirit, right? I'm going to ask for help, and then I'm going to get a conviction. Yeah, you got it. We're going. How many of you have just asked and then walked into something that was really scary, but seemingly you could not stop from walking? What is that but a power greater than you walking through you, right? So that's how you grow and awaken and develop the faith placed in you, yes? All right, so this brings to mind a story about one of our friends. While drinking, he accepted a sum of money from a bitterly hated business rival, giving him no receipt for it. He subsequently denied having received the money and used the incident as a basis for discrediting the man. He thus used his own wrongdoing as a means of destroying the reputation of another. In fact, his rival was ruined. He felt he had done a wrong he could not possibly make right. If he opened that old affair, he was afraid it would destroy the reputation of his partner, disgrace his family, and take away his means of livelihood. What right had he to involve those dependent upon him? Question mark. If I put the general principle, none without their permission, right? Any of those people that would be affected, those are others. How could he possibly make a public statement exonerating his rival? Question mark. Well, I'll tell you the whole story so you understand why you need to make a public statement instead of a one-on-one direct amends. He was one of the original AAs that was more in tune with the Oxford groups rather than the AAs. So his church family was very important to him. And he hadn't been able to attend his own church for years because of his embarrassment for this. And what he had done is while he was drinking, he took money for the church fund from this business rival and then drank the money and then told everybody, dude never gave me the money. So he defrauds the entire church community and defames his friend. So you understand, any of you that come from a church family, you can understand this is some stuff that's got some consequences tied to it that are difficult to face, yes? And any of you that have ever been in recovery and somehow the seventh tradition was entrusted to you and then it was entrusted to the plug. But anyway, look, I've done both. So after consulting with his wife and partner, he came to the conclusion it was better to take those risks than to stand before his creator guilty of such ruinous slander. He saw that he had to place the outcome in God's hands or he'd soon start drinking again and all would be lost anyhow. Have you ever been so convicted that you needed to take a hard action that you just went into it and you just completely, that's kind of re-upping on 3. We ask for his protection and care, complete abandon. They're telling you what that looks like. And does it make sense? Okay, so he attended church for the first time in many years. So he's going to go back to the congregation, which he defrauded. And after the sermon, he quietly got up and made an explanation. Remember, they told us to be calm, frank, and open. How quiet do you think he felt getting up in front of that congregation to make this? He did not feel quiet, but he appeared quiet. What is that but a power greater than you operating through you? Right? So he's painting you this picture. All right? Says his action met widespread approval, and today he's one of the most trusted citizens of his town. This all happened years ago. So now you see the demonstration, the power of works. Because of the works he did, to go up and say what he did and ask for their forgiveness and what he could do right, the thief of the church fund becomes the most trusted citizen of the town through the power of God. Right? So how many people did he pull in because of a tangible demonstration. We don't know, but we can assume that he reaffirmed faith. Yes? Okay, so the chances are that we have domestic troubles. Anybody? Even you that don't have domestics, you have troubles, right? Perhaps we're mixed up with women in a fashion we wouldn't care to have advertised. We doubt if in this respect alcoholics are fundamentally much worse than other people. So our sexual proclivities, our promiscuity isn't unique to people in addiction, but often we're a bit extreme in it, just like we are in everything else, right? Yeah, so it makes for great stories, but not to the people affected. Yeah, I mean, we got to be careful not to laugh to somebody who finds it not funny, right? Because it was harmful. We were delivered from it, but anyway. So, but drinking does complicate sex relations in the home, as do all other substances. Yes? After a few years with an alcoholic, a wife gets worn out, resentful, and uncommunicated. Sean agrees. He met one. Anyone else? So what they always tell you, they tell you what you see from where you are, and then they encourage you to get insight. So she looks worn out, resentful, and uncommunicative, and then the question mark to get insight. How could she be anything else? That's why they have a chapter to the wives, to the family, right? So you can get a sense of what it was like to have you coming home to somebody. Okay, so the husband begins to feel sorry for himself. He commences to look around in the nightclubs or their equivalent for something besides liquor.
Christie's Cabaret.
So Sean liked to go to the strip club to find fellowship. But many of us go to, recovery halls. And so all we're trying to say is if you're looking outside of yourself for a solution, you're looking in the wrong place. And it's going to do harm to you and to others. So, back it off a notch. Let's get you awake. Yeah? All right. So perhaps he's having a secret and exciting affair with the girl who understands. Any of you met him or her? Very understanding. In fairness, we must say that she may understand, but what are we going to do about a thing like that? See, I'm deflecting at that point. It isn't understanding of humans I need. I need divine understanding. Right? That's what I need to be seeking. So a man so involved often feels very remorseful at times, especially if he's married to a loyal and courageous girl who's literally gone through hell for him. Whatever the situation, we usually have to do something about it. If we're sure our wife does not know, should we tell her? Question mark. Opinions vary widely. People say no. I always want to know, how sure are you? You're pretty sure they didn't know about your addiction, too. Again, there's no rule here, but make sure you check it more than once in the spirit. If it's important, God will say it more than once, right? All right, so not always we think. If she knows in a general way that we've been wild, should we tell her in detail? Question mark. We got a more definitive no. So apparently some people in this room have received detail. See, it's not kind to give detail even though they demand it, because it's going to stay in an image in their mind. They're going to suffer from that detail. I know this because I've suffered from the detail. All right, so undoubtedly we should admit our fault. She may insist on knowing all the particulars. She'll want to know who the woman is and where she is. So here's what they're going to talk to us about: the difference between how we feel and what we're empowered to do. We feel we ought to say to her that we have no right to involve another person. We're sorry for what we've done, and if God willing, it shall not be repeated. More than that, we cannot do. We have no right to go further. That is the most prudent and benevolent approach, but that requires power greater than me. That requires me to make my no mean no. Does it make sense? And it sounds like a simple question, but try and say no to people and see if you don't add an explanation after it most times. Because everything after a no is a lie, just so you know. No, I can't come to your dinner. My family's coming to. No means no. No, I can't tell you anymore. I have no right to disclose that to you. She didn't harm you. I did. Let's go. But if you're not empowered, you won't. You'll dribble. So, and I'm going to tell you why I know this. I'm a dribbler. Though there may be justifiable exceptions, see, I got a weapon of the enemy that operates full time in my head if I allow it, and it's justification. I can justify about anything, right? And I have to know that's me lying to me, right? So there may be justifiable exceptions, and though we wish to lay down no rule of any sort, we've often found this the best course to take. Which is the best course to take? Don't involve somebody else. Take your heat, right? Hold your mud. All right. Our decision for living is, our design for living is not a one-way street. It's good for the wife, it's for the husband. If we can forget, so can she. It is always our recommendation that you do not tell her or him that. Let them discover that on their own. It is better, however, that one does not needlessly name a person upon whom she can vent jealousy. What happens when we do what they demand is we deflect. And that's not being direct, right? It's not being frank. Okay, so perhaps there are some cases where the utmost frankness is demanded. No outsider can appraise such an intimate situation. What's an outsider in this instance?
Anyone else?
Yeah, you got a creator living in you, informing your steps. That's the only counselor you need to know in this instance. Does that make sense? So it may be that both will decide that the way of good sense and loving kindness is to let bygones be bygones. Each might pray about it, having the other one's happiness uppermost in mind. Guys, they're not talking about silliness. They're saying, look, I'm burdened with resentment and hurt from what I believe to be, a breach of faith, and I've lost all hope that we can have a future, and all these things that really do go. I mean, the Spirit just sucks out of us when we feel betrayed. But if we'll pray for them, we'll start infusing all those things that I would have for myself, I hope for her. Yeah, and vice versa, right? Because it takes two to tango. There's a reason that happened, right? All right, so good generalship may decide that the problem be attacked on the flank rather than risk face-to-face combat. Go about doing what you're doing, show kindness, show love and tolerance, and let them come to their own conclusions. Make sense? Nobody ever wants to be told how they should think or feel, right? You shouldn't think that way. Yeah, no shit. Okay, so if we have no such complication, there is plenty we should do at home. So now that they're just saying, no matter what you did, you didn't get here on a winning streak. So let's take a look. We've now gone through the inventory. We know the harms we've done. We know sometimes it's just a matter of maybe my kids, they don't know how I've harmed them directly, but I've been absent. So I need to be present in meaningful ways, those types of things, right? Okay. So sometimes we hear an alcoholic say the only thing he needs to do is keep sober. How many of you in your recovery meetings have heard that recently? Yeah. Now think about just that. All I got to do is just stay sober. Don't pick up. Does that make any sense in light of your experience? No. Because I can't live that way. Yeah? All right, so certainly he must keep sober. So that's what they're saying to you. Yeah, that's a given. That's the one thing I've admitted I'm powerless to do. Is the thing I must do. I better come to believe in something greater than me. Certainly he must keep sober. There will be no home if he doesn't. How many of you got that point? Yeah, if you don't believe you can lose your home, you didn't try hard enough. You can learn from me. It's very possible. It's highly probable. But It's an inevitability. But he is yet a long way from making good to the wife or parents whom for years he's so shockingly treated. Passing all understanding as the patient's mothers and wives have had with alcoholics. Had this not been so, many of us would have had no homes today, would perhaps be dead. The alcoholic's like a tornado roaring his way through the lives of others. Look at the metaphor of the picture they paint. Any of you ever think about the damage you did in your active addiction to the people who tried to care about you and for you? Hearts are broken. Sweet relationships are dead. Affections have been uprooted. Selfish and inconsiderate habits have kept the home in turmoil. And then just a clinical evaluation. We feel a man is unthinking when he says sobriety's enough. How many of you have seen dead relationships reborn? That's resurrection power. He's like the farmer who came up out of the cyclone cellar to find his home ruined. To his wife, he remarked, "Don't see anything the matter here, Ma. Ain't it grand the wind stopped blowing?" So did any of you ever have that? Especially in early recovery, I hear it a lot. Well, she's really mad at me because I had to get to my meeting. She wanted to argue with me about going to my meeting. I need my meetings. She doesn't like me now. At least I'm sober. And after a while, it's like, well, why don't you get drunk? We kind of liked you better. We could put you in the corner. The reality is not poking fun, but it isn't. I don't get to continue in selfish and inconsiderate habits. If I'm in the manner of living and I want to get free, I need to start treating people the way I wish I were treated. Yeah. All right. First, not wait to see how they treat me. All right. So yes, there's a long period of reconstruction ahead, and we must take the lead. So remember, we talked about taking the bit in our teeth. I got to take the lead. I got to get the bit in my teeth to start this period of reconstruction. Yes? The remorseful mumbling that we're sorry won't fill the bill at all. How many of you have tried that? They're not saying apologies are bad. They're saying apologies without changed behavior are bad. Yeah? Okay, so we ought to sit down with the family and frankly analyze the past as we now see it. So how many of you see the past differently? Almost immediately as we started on the step process, we start to see the past differently, don't we? Okay, so being careful not to criticize them. Their defects may be glaring, but the chances are that our own actions are partly responsible. So we clean house with the family, asking each morning in meditation that our Creator show us the way of patience, tolerance, kindness, and love. I challenge anyone who hasn't tried this before, add that to your daily prayer ritual. Ask that you be shown the way of patience, tolerance, and kindness, and love. And every time your mind streams to unkind, intolerant thoughts, bring it back to the power you've asked for. Because you're going to be obligated. You ask for the power, you'll receive the power. But now you have to apply it. You'll apply it through discipline. Does that make sense? And your life will change because you're consciously asking to be shown. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Then it says the spiritual life is not a theory. A lot of people still think that way. That's why we think prayer is silly and we think all those things. Those of us who have been at this a while and we understand the realm of the spirit is broad, roomy, and also a place of war, we understand that we need to be fortified. And not sometimes, all the time. Yes? The spiritual life is not a theory. We have to live it. Very intentional words in italics. Make sense? This isn't a box I'm checking. I'm really going to guard this high place today. I'm going to watch what I put in it, and I'm going to watch what resides there. And I'm going to cast out anything that isn't beneficial to my brother and sister. Yeah? All right, so unless one's family expresses a desire to live upon spiritual principles, we think we ought not urge them. We should not talk incessantly to them about spiritual matters. Claim this promise: they will change in time. No matter how much damage has been done, if you'll persevere, everything and everyone around you, their perspectives will change of you. Atmospherics is powerful stuff. All right, so our behavior will convince them more than our words. Yes? Yes. We must remember that 10 or 20 years of drunkenness would make a skeptic out of anyone. There may be some wrongs we can never fully right. We don't worry about them if we can honestly say to ourselves that we would write them if we could. Fully concede to my innermost self. You can't do that based on a lie. So remember that if you really are willing to do it, but if there's an impediment, fine, start talking to the power in you and see what happens, yeah? Some people cannot be seen. We send them an honest letter, and there may be a valid reason for postponement in some cases, but we don't delay if it can be avoided. We should be sensible, tactful, considerate, and humble without being servile or scraping. As God's people, we stand on our feet. We don't crawl before anyone. I like to give an example of that for people that haven't heard. There was a guy in Phoenix years ago, went by the name of Black Wally. And he told everybody he called himself Black Wally so you didn't confuse him with all the white Wallies. And he was a character, as you can tell from the way he talked. But what he did do, no matter many, many years sober, he would come help a young cub like me go do service work. He'd go in the jails. He couldn't hardly breathe. His asthma was so bad. But he'd go do all that stuff with me. And then I twisted off and just ghosted him. I felt bad. And I came back years later, and one of the things I wanted to do was go make that approach to him and tell him how much I appreciated him and how I was sorry that I had done what I did. And he was past. So I did these disciplines they're saying. I would honestly make that if I could. And I took it to prayer. And one day I was sitting in the courtyard of a halfway house in Phoenix, and I'm hearing a fifth step of a young man. And as I'm hearing his story and his family history, I realize I'm with Wally's grandson. Power. Yeah. So I would write them if I could, and I took it to my Heavenly Father, and he saw that I could. Because I can assure you that it meant more to Wally that I lifted his grandson than I made an apology to him. You understand? Okay, so here we go. If we're painstaking about this phase of our development, we'll be amazed before we're halfway through. We're going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. So new means new. This is relieve me of the bondage of self. I'm starting to get free of those chains that bound me to this self apart from God. Yes. Will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. Why? Yeah, that's what I got. It's my testimony, right? All right. We'll comprehend the word serenity, and we'll know peace. Comprehend and know their states of being. Understand the promises are states of being. They're states of consciousness, right? So if you're a student of that other book, Paul speaks about being raised up. John speaks about being raised up. Those levels of consciousness, that's what we're talking about here. It's not new cars and glitter. You might get new cars, but that's not the promises, right? All right, so no matter how far down the scale we've gone, we'll see how our experience can benefit others. How many of you took it pretty far out? A lot of us in this room took it a long way out. A lot of you people in the sound took it a long way out. And every single thing I've ever shared with somebody, I shared for the benefit of them, and I understood why I went through it. I had a woman tell me one time she did a life sentence, and she really didn't belong doing a life sentence. I mean, she was caught up with some guys, and a crime went down. She took the beef because someone got dead in the middle of a felony, and so she did a life sentence. And she was sitting out in the yard talking to Denise and I, and she goes, I honestly believe, and it's the way I live my life, that I made the decision before I came into this world that I would take that assignment for God and that I wouldn't forget him on my journey. She said, and I forgot him for just a minute, and that's when I caught the life sentence. But I went right back to filling out that sentence, my assignment. She says, I'm still living exactly as he would have me. And I thought, what a beautiful thing to hear from somebody. Wow. Anyway, so that feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We'll lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We'll intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. And we'll suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They're being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them. See you next week.
You can work in the IT.